our company wants to do is make people wake up and choose their own path. Because obviously, if you're still sleeping, you don't know what's going on. You can't blame people that don't know. But if you know and you choose the wrong thing, I mean, that's all on you.
It's way easier to trick somebody than to convince somebody they have been tricked. And there's a lot of people that have been tricked, and they're going to fight for their trickery. They're going to fight because, daddy government told them that it was the way and that was the right thing. Telling them they're wrong, that they've been lied to, is very difficult and very offensive. And so I think that we're doing what's necessary and learning what is necessary to slowly educate people to wake them up.
There are millions and millions of people around the world who are so close, and all they need is that little push of curiosity into Bitcoin. And once they start to kind of like understand it, everything else is already in place. And those people are going to be the ones that push this movement out to everyone else.
Greetings and salutations, my fellow plebs. My name is Walker, and this is the Bitcoin Podcast. The Bitcoin time chain is 844772, and the value of 1 Bitcoin is still 1 Bitcoin. Today's episode is Bitcoin Talk, where I talk with my guests about Bitcoin and whatever else comes up. Today I have not 1, not 2, but 3 guests. Julian, Isabella, and Adam, who collectively make up the media and production company Get Based. But calling them a media and production company honestly seems like a disservice, because this crew is truly changing the game when it comes to based content that actually reaches outside of the Bitcoin echo chamber. This was a really fun conversation, and it ranges all over the place from what it means to be based, to creating content that pulls people out of the matrix, to how to fix the broken fiat system, to fundraising and sponsorship for content creators, to their recent documentary on Bitcoin adoption in Peru, and a whole lot more. I highly recommend you follow Julian, Isabella, and Adam, plus their channel Get Based TV. Their content is highly informative, it is hilarious, and of course it is exceptionally based. You can find all their links in the show notes. Before we dive in, do me a favor and subscribe to the Bitcoin Podcast wherever you are listening, and give this show a 5-star rating, or don't. Bitcoin doesn't care, but I truly would appreciate it. Also, just a heads up that you can find links in the show notes to get discounts on the Bitcoin-only Bitbox O2 hardware wallet from Bitbox Swiss, and on 5G SIM cards from Cloaked Wireless that protect you from SIM swap attacks. The promo code is Walker for both. If you'd rather watch this show than listen, head to the show notes for links to watch on YouTube, Rumble, and now on Nostr via Highlighter. But if you're like me and you prefer to just listen to your podcasts, I highly recommend you check out Fountain.fm. Not only can you send Bitcoin to your favorite podcasters to give value for value, but you can earn Bitcoin just for listening to this fucking podcast. And if you're already listening to the Bitcoin Podcast on Fountain, consider giving this show a boost or creating a clip of something you found interesting. Finally, if you are a Bitcoin-only company interested in sponsoring another fucking Bitcoin podcast, hit me up on social media or through the website bitcoinpodcast.net. Without further ado, let's get into this Bitcoin talk with the Get Based crew. Now back to Bitcoin Baby NGU. I think this is actually a very powerful narrative, is like within the Bitcoin space, yes, number go up, but baby go up. Like, we need to repopulate the earth with Bitcoin babies. I think it's important. Next
generation go up, man. That's the way.
Yeah. It's they're Generation B, right? Like, but Unicode Bitcoin B, maybe. I don't know.
It's called Generation B?
No, I think they're actually like Generation Alpha or something.
Alpha.
Which is, I think, aren't kids that are being born right now like Generation Alpha?
I think it is Alpha.
I think if you're 0 to 15 right now, you're Alpha. Yeah.
I don't know, some bureaucrats.
I mean, honestly, Generation Alpha sounds pretty cool. Like, you don't want to be Generation Beta, but at least Generation B.
Like monikers anyways. Like, who came up with
that? Sounds like such a badass. I feel like they have to live up to the name though. Like, after being called Generation Alpha, out of all of them, you had the baby boomers where like they're screwed. Then you had Gen Z. What is that? Then you got babies Alpha. They're like
But I feel like everybody forgets about Gen X too. Like Gen X was just kind of like Gen X is like so like my parents are boomers, like the generate like on the tail end of boomers, like so they're younger boomers. It's the generation that came like right after the boomers. I don't know why it's X exactly. There's probably some reason for the nomenclature, but they're like I think Gen Xers are like mid 40s to like 60, something like that. Does that sound right?
my mom's a Gen X then.
Yeah, there you go.
Dogs.
But but I feel like they're like the forgotten generation. Like the boomers have just basically like the boomers never handed over power to Gen X. They just
Yeah.
kind of kept it. They were like, you guys can't be trusted with this, you know. But I don't know if the boomers can either, honestly.
But
So
I feel like that's what the alphas are gonna be like. They're gonna be like, it's all on us, the generation that changes everything. Because we
Dude.
did everything for them. So
Well,
once they take
the
over,
pendulum's swinging like appropriately so that the alpha gen can be, proper alpha. Like you said, Julian, like, baby NGU, which is great. Like Sound Money now, having like a foothold in existence. We've got like, I feel like society as a whole is understanding why low time preference is good, right? Like, our gen was like, social media, sweet, let's scroll this thing for 7 hours, and then the next Gen Z is like, oh wow, everyone scrolls, this is fantastic, and now the next gen is gonna be like, wait a minute, scrolling sucks, we need to change that. Seed oils are no good.
You know,
Like, I need to
we
figure out my life, and I think that's gonna be a good thing.
we talk about the fall of the West here, but man, I was looking at South Korea. I think they have the lowest birth rate in the world. It's 0.7 or zero point 0.8 kids per couple there. And
Lots
the
of
government has
dinks.
spent just like I think $25 billion since 2006 to try and like come up with initiatives to get people to start having kids. And it's just a disaster there. So we need to export some of our baby
They
number
should
go
just
up
make
there.
condoms illegal. Like that. What do you mean come up with initiatives? 25 billion. Pay me the 25 bill. I'll just take away all the condoms. You'll have kids
Yeah.
like nothing.
what are you gonna do with all those condoms? What kind of nefarious plan do you have?
didn't that happen to China though? They had like the one child ban, so people could only have one child, and then now they don't have enough population.
Well, and
Hmm.
the
They
problem,
have way too many men because
yeah, the
everybody.
problem that happened goes because
Yeah.
everyone kept on killing their daughters because they wanted their bloodline to survive, and or their last name to survive, which is even more vain. And so now they got like, yeah, they're chalked up with men. There's no women.
Yeah, I
It's
read this stat that it's like it's getting close to 11 men in China per 10 women, which means that unless you're gay and or leave the country, like you're probably gonna die alone in China. It's pretty rough for men
Hang
there.
on, 11 men
What?
per one woman.
If you're one of the 11, there's a good chance that like if you don't leave the country to find a partner or you turn out to be gay, and I don't know if that's legal in China, you can't you're done, right? Like you're not gonna have a kid because you're just not gonna the numbers just don't work in your favor.
Well, if you're gay, you're not gonna have a kid because the science doesn't work out in your favor either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's legal or acceptable in China to come out publicly as homosexual yet
The
too.
the
Could be wrong on
wild
that.
thing about China is like that is just the one child policy is such a fucking clear example of the terrible unintended consequences of centralized
Dude.
government control of anything. Like, but it's just so blatant. It's like, well, we'll
Yeah.
just limit everyone to one child. What could go wrong? And it's like, well, okay, we all want boys.
It's Cobra
And
effect,
Well,
man.
the bad thing about that is like those are the worst policies, just like central banking, because they do always look good in the short term and people can't see 30, 40 years out, but like the next 2 to 5 or 10 years looked pretty good for them with that policy, just like it was for us with central banking. But nobody cares what happens 30 years from now, right? It's just so distant in people's time preferences.
But the thing with China is like they're just open about it. They're like,
Yeah.
this is how we are, this is how it is. But then we have countries like the United States that they're like, oh, freedom, all this, come here, be free. And then all of a sudden they bombard you with so many laws that you're really not free at all. So then I have my respect for China. I gotta give them. You have to give them credit. They're like blatantly like communist that they control your life. They don't try to hide it at all. So that's why I feel like the United States. It's sort of like a two-faced person that is like, yeah, we're nice, come, and then they're just as strict and just as bad as China.
I would say I would agree with that to an extent. I would also say I would still rather live in the United States of America any day than live in China.
I wouldn't live in China either, to clarify.
But yeah. It's just scary though, because you see, it's weird when you start to see them doing things in China, like for instance, like digital IDs and rolling out CBDCs and just social credit scores. And then you see those same sorts of ideas floated in purportedly free democratic societies like the United States. And you're like, oh, well, hold on. Literally, like the antithesis of our values in a country's form is doing this, but you're proposing it here. Like, you hear yourself, right? Like, that's why I found like the China Bitcoin mining ban to be like such a perfect example of that. Because it's like the Chinese government did not like Bitcoin. Like they banned themselves from it though, right? There's still massive amounts of hash rate coming from China. Local, municipal provinces love it because they've got something to do with all that excess hydro and excess power that they have, and they make money. But then it's like when you see the U.S. start to have anti-Bitcoin rhetoric, which I think is also kind of shifting a little bit now, you're like, well, you're mimicking like the people that in the same breath you're saying are bad and are our enemy and we need to have, escalating trade wars with, but you're saying, oh no, but on Bitcoin, they've got that part right. Like, it's just so logically inconsistent. The mind boggles.
Hang on. Are you suggesting that the governments are talking out of both sides of their mouth? What is this? What is this hate speech that you have going on here, Walker? Come on.
I know. How dare I? I need to be sent to the gulag for some re-education.
At minimum.
And speaking of going to the gulags for re-education, your guys' content has been so fucking fire, by the way. Like, I just want to say, and it is insanely based, as the name would suggest. But I start to worry that you guys start speaking too much truth, and boy, like, the gulags may be waiting for you if you guys keep being so based. That's what I worry about.
This is what Bitcoin is for. This is why Bitcoin is so important and why everything always comes back to Bitcoin, because what are they going to take away, right? They can debank you, but if you have Bitcoin in self-custody, that's okay. They can make you pay, a bunch of money and fines, but if you've got Bitcoin, you've been, consistently having low time preference and have a good stack of Bitcoin, that's fine. You can afford to do that. They can go ahead and try to punish you, but again, if you've got your stack of Bitcoin, you jump on a plane and get out of here. So it's like the only way anyone can punish you for speaking truth and making nonviolent crimes is because you are broke and controlled. And the benefit about being in Bitcoin is that you are not broke or controlled. And like I've been debanked, for like a long time. And I have a very easy time living because I've got Bitcoin in self-custody and, there's like Bitcoin adjacent products that I can use. And so I think this is why, and people don't realize, like, they don't realize what freedoms are taken away until they need the freedoms at hand. And no one ever needs the freedom at hand until it's too late. Like, and I think the trucker protest that we had here in Canada was a phenomenal example of that. And again, the only thing that was not affected by the trucker, or the government overreach during that protest was Bitcoin and self-custody, right? The GoFundMes were all confiscated. The Bitcoin that went through custodians were all confiscated. Bitcoin verified to a node, no problem. And I think that's a powerful message. And so I'm not concerned. I've been a target of the banks for a long time, which has been fine. I think, Isabella and Julian, I don't know if they know what they're getting into, but
I would reckon a bet that I don't think there's anyone in the Bitcoin space who has been as debanked as often as you have, Adam. Like, the amount of accounts closed, I don't think anyone can beat you on that record.
No, it's for sure. Like, even my wife is banned from multiple banks. It's quite hilarious.
What was your heinous crime to be debanked so many times? Seriously,
they won't tell me. So the way that the debanking typically works is, like when it was me. So I'm done now. I have a small credit union here in Alberta, and they also bank the public company that I run, and so part of our negotiations there was that the CEO of the company gets a checking account. We had to like that's in the contract. And so every other one, I'll have an account, I'll get it open, I'll do the whole thing, like send my direct deposit, have like whatever, like it's just a checking account. Epcor, like our hydro comes out of it, the phone bills come out, like it's pretty basic. And then 3 to 4 months later, I get a letter that's just like, we were evaluating your account, you're outside of our risk profile, effective this day, it's going to be closed. And so a few times I called. Actually, I live streamed one time with TD, who's like one of the biggest banks here. I live streamed like the 2-hour phone call that I had with them, and it boiled down to they're not going to tell me why. There's no logic behind it, and off they go. The funny part about TD though is, so they originally gave me a 7-year ban. They were like, "We are not going to bank you for 7 years."
What?
And I was like, "Well, that's dumb, but okay." So then that was in 2015. So in 2023, my 7 years are up, and I'm like, man, I could really use a bank account. So I'm going to go and try to open one. So I go there, and I'm like rolling in. I got my ID, and like we're going through, and the lady takes me to the back, and we're like going through all the paperwork. And then she kind of was like, "Oh, there's a weird thing here. I got to go check with someone." I was like, "Okay, go have a look," thinking like, yeah, that makes sense. I was banned. Now I'm not banned. Like this is, I imagine this is going to be some weirdness. And then she comes back and she's like, "Oh, you're banned." And I was like, "Oh, no, don't worry. That 7-year ban is over. Like, I'm good now." And she's like, "No, I just heard your 7-year ban was upgraded to a lifetime ban. You're not able to do." And I was like, "Oh, that's weird because I haven't banked here in 7 years. I'm not sure what I could have done to make, the ban upgraded. Like, literally, I've got zero activity between banning and now. What's the problem?" And she's like, "Oh, well, we can't disclose our internals, and so I'm not at liberty to say, basically." And
What the fuck?
that was that.
Wait, how do you buy a house?
Yeah, with like
Cash?
cash, cash, or what I actually had to do, and shout out Ledin for this. I actually had to take a loan, like backed against Bitcoin, take the cash from the loan and get that wired into a trust at the lawyers, so the lawyers could pay, and then I could like basically repay the loan. Like it's completely goofy.
That's insane.
And yeah, and one time, like, and people don't realize this, I actually, and I have a bit of a humble opinion on this. Like, I actually don't fault the banks. I believe in the free market, and I believe that a private business, like, you better believe if the Scotiabank CEO, or if the CEO of Scotiabank wants a Bitcoin Well account, the answer is hell no. Like, just no way. Just because you don't deserve sound money. And I believe that I have the right to tell him no. And all the big banks, like, I'm talking to you specifically, big bank CEOs, like, you're not getting an account at Bitcoin Well. But the problem is that you can't actually transact in cash in this country. And so the banks have this unusual side-handed power where you can't pay taxes with cash, you can't buy a house with cash, you can't buy a car with cash. I went to go buy my wife an SUV, and I'm talking to the dealer, and we're like, "Yeah, okay, we get the price, it's all good." And I'm like, "I got to pay in cash, though." He's like, "Cash is no problem. We love cash." I was like, "Okay, fantastic." So I like walk in with my duffel bag, and he's like, "What's in the bag?" I was like, "Cash." He's like, "Oh, I thought you meant a check." And I was like, "If I meant a check, I would have said a check. I said cash, and that's what I meant." He's like, "Oh, well, we got to give the cash to the police. The police are going to hold it for 10 days.
What?
Like, all this nonsense." And I'm like, "No, you don't. Like, that's just wrong. You don't have to do that." And the way that I know that is because I deal with cash every single day, and I don't have to give it to the police. So, you don't have to give it to the police. But they've got these weird backhanded like rules, and the banks have these weird regulations or like internal policies that force everyone to not deal in cash. And I'm obviously an edge case. There's not millions of guys in my situation, but it does showcase how backwards the banking system is and how much power they have, which I think is problematic.
It's just nuts because like cash is like quite literally legal tender. Like
yeah, it's actually the only legal tender.
Yeah, like you're kind of like legally required to accept it for payment of goods and services and all debts, public and private. It's like the whole thing. It's nuts.
I can't tell you how many times I've been walking down. We work on White Avenue, which is like a restaurant road here in Edmonton, and like I got a sandwich spot, but when that sandwich spot is too busy, I go to the next sandwich spot, and I went to go, like, the sandwich was like whatever, $13 or $14. I give him a $20 bill, and he's like, "Oh, we don't have change." And I was like, "Dude, it's $6. What do you don't have a couple toonies in your till? Like, what are you talking about? You don't have change. He's like, yeah, we don't make change. We just don't take cash. And it's like, oh,
What I've noticed is for businesses that don't have like the actual owners running them, it's easier for them to do everything through cards because they don't got to deal with their, not their customers, but their workers stealing from them. Like it's easier to steal. But the thing at the same time, if you start thinking about it, if you have everything through card, they're tracking every single payment. And I noticed that in third world countries, obviously they love cash because if they have cash, they don't have to report all of their earnings in cash. So it's like kind of like, it's crazy how the more advanced countries are getting brainwashed for like to do everything electronically because it's easier and they're taking, the complications away. Like, oh, don't get robbed by your own employees that you hire. But you know what? We'll track everything. And at the end of the day, I feel like they'll end up paying way more in taxes than they would if they got robbed by their own employees.
Well, not just that.
The thieves that are bureaucrats are worse than the thieves that are teenagers.
Yeah. The crazy thing too is like cash is final settlement. Like that's the great thing about it. It's like once that bill changes hands, transaction complete, and I am now the owner of that cash. It's like credit cards, like that can be clawed back, like, a month later. And as a business owner, it's like, okay, not only are you paying fees for that privilege, but you also might not actually have that credit that you think you have.
Or you have to pay sums of money or time to just keep that dollar. Like my mom worked, she was a bookkeeper for a restaurant, and all the time they would have like, the credit card companies calling and saying, oh, this is getting charged back. Our client wasn't there, blah, blah, blah. And my mom, like, bless her heart, she would spend all of her time, like, for the next days, digging through the receipts. It's like, no, here's his signature. It's like, oh, no, that doesn't look like our client's signature. And it's like, no, here's the video of his drunk ass signing the receipt. Like, yes, it is him. And then it's like, oh, okay. But she had to spend tens of hours, which to her employer is, hundreds, thousands of dollars, to like fix that. And that's just for one single chargeback. Like what happens when they're once a week, once a month, and we're just such in a habit of like, oh, the credit card, yeah, fraud, got to get a new card, no problem. People don't realize the merchants pay for that, which in turn comes out of their profit, which in turn goes back into the prices. It just makes everything more expensive.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. In Miami, people like literally, they're like, we're going to go out and put everything on the card, charge everything, get tables, get booze, whatever. And then the next day they call their credit card account and say that wasn't them.
Ugh.
Yeah. And we don't realize like how pernicious it is for small businesses, especially restaurants, because restaurants are lucky if they make like a 5 to 10% profit margin.
Totally.
And I think like average chargeback rates are about 2%. So imagine you're squeaking by with like 5% profit and then randomly you get a phone call. Half of that profit's gone because you have to dispute it with a credit card provider and like they're not going to give you all the details. And it's like you can go out of business tomorrow just because of a chargeback if you're a restaurant or a very low margin business.
100%, man. It's
sad.
brutal. It's brutal. So yeah, I mean, Bitcoin, like finality right away. You don't have to worry with like some sticky fingers. You just have a watch only. Like it just solves so many problems. It's absolutely
Well, except
amazing.
if you're using Ethereum you can do chargebacks with. You just need to have a big enough amount, and then Vitalik.
Yeah, you just gotta call it Vitalik and the Ethereum Foundation, and they'll just like little Control Z action, and off they go.
Yeah,
That's
Bitcoin
accurate
fixes this. Ethereum does not.
But wait, I want to know how that transition, because Adam, you've been unbanked for like your whole Bitcoin career. So how has it been and how has Bitcoin like evolved in it? Is it easier now to pay people than it was like back in the day? Like how did you survive back in the day to now? Like
He
Yeah, well,
literally
back in the
built the
day,
tools he needed. That's like
What?
the Bitcoin Wells story.
Yeah,
It's
this
like
is like
everything that Adam needed to get banking features, he just built. It's crazy.
This
Literally.
is actually a perfect segue to the general question I like to open with, and by open I mean after a lot of banter, and sometimes I forget to ask the question, but I do want to know from each of you, and Adam, we can start with you, like, who are you and how did you get here today? So Isabella, thank you because you set that up just perfect.
Yo, Isabella, the co-host, man.
I know, I love it. I love it.
I like better talking about other people than myself. I can't get intimidated with podcasts.
Don't worry. This is a zero intimidation zone. It's this is a safe space, but like a real safe space, not like a fake safe space, if that makes sense. But anyway, Adam, you wanna kick us off with that, because I am also very curious, like how that transition has felt to you.
Yeah. So found Bitcoin in like 2013. It had just hit all-time highs of $100, and I was like, oh, fake internet money worth $100. I'm gonna be a hero on Reddit and prove everyone wrong. Which is how all the best, Bitcoin maxis start. I just gave a presentation at the Canadian Bitcoin conference where I said there's like two, and then it branched into three kinds of people. There's like pre-Bitcoin maximalists, and then there's Bitcoin maximalists, and that's like fully my journey is, going from like hater, disbeliever to like, oh, hey, that encryption actually kind of makes, oh, hey, this consensus also kind of wait a second, it's got this level of decentralization and it's got proof of work. Well, how does the economy, money works like that? Well, yeah, Bitcoin is way better. And then it's like, oh, wow, Bitcoin is just the obvious answer. And so started selling Bitcoin, just put an ad on like Kijiji and Craigslist. I was just like, yo, I'm selling Bitcoin, like, call me, just with my like normal phone number on the internet. And, had a couple meetings a month and then a couple a week. And then, it just kind of turned into like every day I was meeting someone talking about Bitcoin. I probably had 4 Consensus coins pass through my hands, like before they were, like really friggin' awesome. I know a guy that's got 2 right now. One of them's for sale. And
Like the actual gold ones?
Yeah. Can you, for anyone that doesn't know, can you explain what that is?
So they were like coins that were minted with a private key with 1 coin on them, like verifiably, kind of sealed, and then sold in a limited quantity. And they sell at a premium to Bitcoin because they're obviously worth a Bitcoin. You can strip the key, but they're rare. They're a piece of Bitcoin history at this point. And like I remember unwrapping one in McDonald's, and I'd never heard of it before. And this lady came and she was like, I broke up with my boyfriend and he gave me this stupid coin. I got to get some money, like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, well, this is obviously a scam. She's like, no, there's some QR code on it. Like he said, if you peel something back, then you get some code and then you can get the Bitcoin. And I like cracked it, ripped it with my ice cream sundae beside me, like a noob. And I just ripped the private key and I was like, okay, yeah, here's I think I gave her like $500 was the price of Bitcoin at the time. And I was like, here you go. Like, thanks very much. And then probably the coin is somewhere sitting in my basement or like, I'm kind of a hoarder, so I didn't throw it away. But yeah, like there's little things like that. And
I thought they were gold, like actually gold.
No, I don't think they're gold anyways. Not the, I don't know, Walker, do you know?
I do not think they were actually made of gold because at that time, like an ounce of gold was worth significantly more than a Bitcoin. So
yeah, I think they're just like they're gold plated, like they're just metal, like with like a gold, wrapping, I guess.
Peter Schiff would still like them, is what you're saying. Like
they are shiny.
Yeah.
Then found Bitcoin ATMs, and I was like, wow, this is way better than meeting people, and kind of deployed some ATMs.
At that time, how did you buy Bitcoin? Just peer to peer? Because that's what I don't understand. Back in the day, how did people buy Bitcoin?
Yeah, it was just a huge middleman. So there was a shop in Calgary run by Dave Bradley, who like now works with us at Bitcoin Well. And I would drive down to see Dave like a couple times a month. I'd just stock up on Bitcoins and then just come back to Edmonton and sell them. And then I'd be out and I'd call him and be like, hey, I need some coins. And I'd drive back down and bring him like cash or a check or whatever, and then come back and sell them. And that was the old days. That was kind of like there was no, and then eventually, like, in 2015 there was some exchanges. There was an exchange here in Canada called CA Vertex, which I think it rugged a couple people, but as far as like exchanges that once were that are now closed, it was like pretty good. And then there was Wallet of Satoshi, and then of course Quadriga were kind of the main three. I remember in 2015, I think, I was at a conference in Toronto, like a Bitcoin conference in Toronto, and I was sitting with, like, I had lunch with with Jerry from Quadriga, Mike from Wallet of Satoshi, and I don't think the CA Vertex guy was there, but it was like, this was Bitcoin in Canada at that time. Like, it was everything. That was how it worked. And yeah, and that was that. And then slowly, after that, like, running a Bitcoin ATM business has Bitcoin and cash, so there's a bunch of problems there. And started kind of losing banks and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually I kind of started getting into trouble myself. So I was like, okay, well, I need to find a way to, like, I've got Bitcoin and this is very good, but how do I buy groceries? And so it was like, use a credit card and then, try to find a payment that would pay my credit card off. And so give them Bitcoin. And then that kind of just morphed into, like, effectively what Bitcoin Well is today, which is a place to use Bitcoin. But there was no, like, farmers market selling eggs for sats or anything like that. I'm like pretty bullish on that. I think that's very important. But it's going to be interesting to see. Like, I mean, we went, the three of us, to Vancouver. We used Bitcoin, and it was a challenging experience. Like, that day also happened to be like the worst day because LND and Lightning Core were like fighting. So there was some like protocol issues. But I think I am a great example of someone running a legitimate business, publicly traded, that the banks just don't like, and therefore I have no access to my money. My wife is losing access to her money, and it's shocking how little care, how much bureaucracy there is inside the bank. I've got so many insane stories of, like, just crazy things that I've done inside the bank as, like, a result of what they've done to get what I want. Like, we sold a house one time and had the money deposited into a checking account, which was in my name. And the bank called and was like, "You're done." It got the letter and the whole bit. And I was like, okay, well, I need this money in cash. Like, I'm not taking a bank draft. So for 2 weeks, we argue about whether or not I can have it in cash. Finally, they're like, okay, we'll get it in cash Friday, 4 p.m. You got to show up at the bank. We'll have it ready for you. We'll go to the back room in the safe. We'll count it, and then you can leave. Perfect. No problem. So I walk into the bank on time. Like, it's all good. Ready to, like, rock. Got my backpack. And they're like, oh, here's a check. We had to write you a draft. And I was like, I freaked out. I was like,
Jesus.
I was not chill. I was like, this is not cool, you guys. Like, I don't have banks. And it was like, it was like $700K. Like, it was a big sum of money. And I was like, guys, I need this in cash. I have no other place to put this. I've got no banks. Like, you guys got to give me cash. They're like, no. And then the guy started telling me there was nothing he could do. And I was like, okay, fine. Put it in my wife's name. And he's like, no, the draft is written. There's nothing I can do. It's there. It's printed. It's done.
Jesus.
So I took this $700,000 bank draft right in front of him, and I ripped it. And I said, hey, my draft is broken. When you're making the new one, do you mind putting it in my wife's name? And he got very upset. He turned all red. He, like, stormed off to the back, and they had to, like, it was actually kind of a big deal. They had to, like, call Toronto and then, like,
Dear
do a bunch of
Lord.
stuff. I just signed, like, a whole bunch of paperwork. But then I got it. I got the draft in my wife's name. And it's just like, it goes to show that they don't care. Like, we go through weeks of discussion about exactly how this money had to be delivered to me. They just completely disregarded that and then refused to do, I compromise on saying, like, okay, fine, we'll put it in my wife's name. Again, petrified that I won't actually be able to touch that cash. And then, nothing we can do. And, well, look at that. This fake money is
Jeez.
broken. Why don't you go ahead and do something about that and just do the thing that I want you to do? So, yeah. I don't
Those
know, man.
experiences, that'll radicalize you as a human being, where
Yeah,
you're just
it
like,
does.
this is so broken.
It furthers the mission, man. Like, like, when I tell people that Bitcoin Well exists to enable independence, they're like, what does that mean? I'm independent. I've got my money in the bank. I got my RRSPs and my 401k. Like, I'm so independent. And it's like, really? Because let me tell you a story. Over the last 7 years, how independent I've been. doing all the things that I was told to do, with the exception of like starting a Bitcoin business. So yeah,
How dare you?
And
How
and
dare
we're
you?
seeing it more and more. Like we saw Kanye West get debanked for having some like, not so great opinions. We saw a church like this year, a church took a pro-life stance publicly, and the church lost their bank account. Like we're seeing time with the trucker protest, like we're seeing time and time again, your opinions, your free speech kind of has some consequences that you might not expect, which makes it, maybe not such a free speech environment.
Well, I appreciate the background, because it's, I mean, like you've just radicalized me even more. I've been
Good.
lucky enough not to be debanked, but Isabella, I'd love to hear from you as well, and Julian, in whichever order you two choose. You guys are the team. I'll let you fight it out. Who are you? How'd you get here today? And maybe also what radicalized you?
I'll
You
let you
can
go
go,
first,
Julian.
Lisa. No, you go first.
Me? You've
Yeah.
been pretty quiet.
Yeah, I know. I like listening to these stories.
Yeah, me too. I've been like, what? After Adam's story, everybody looks like a wimp now.
I know it's okay.
Like
We're all in the same boat there.
to like the banker.
Our reckoning is coming. You'll see.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, Isabella, kick us off.
All right. So my story, I have more of a funny story. How I got into Bitcoin. It happened in 2021. So I graduated college, and obviously, like I had to work. So I ended up, mid-pandemic. There was no places were hiring. So what I ended up doing was a friend of mine was working at a fulfillment hub, and he was like, "Hey, like I know the owner. Why don't you go for an interview?" And I go for an interview, and I didn't really know. I kind of like went in there to pitch them myself. Like I'm a really hard worker. Like let me know what like I can do anything. And in the middle of the meeting, they were like, you know what? Why don't we do like you study journalism? Why don't we do an online e-commerce, daily news type of thing? So I pitched to them the idea that, I would run this whole business of sending the news of what was happening with all the shipments, because at this time Amazon was booming, drop shipping, everything. So all the clothes, all the merchants and everything was, and the products were coming from China. And I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2021, there was a shipment, a boat that just sank, and nobody was getting their stuff, but nobody knew about that. So I kind of like pitched to them that idea, and I start doing ecom, like the name was called Ecom Daily News, and I start running it, whatever, day to day, and then the Bitcoin conference was happening in Wynwood. And at the time I lived in Miami, and my boyfriend calls me. He's like, "Yo, you have to go to cover the Bitcoin conference. Bitcoin is online internet money. You're doing an e-commerce website. You go and cover the event." So I go into the event, and I find out that the tickets for media were like around $300. And I emailed them to get some media pass, and they're like, "No, it costs money, whatever." So I tell my boss, I was like, "Hey, we have to go and cover Bitcoin Daily News, the Bitcoin conference." He's like, "Yeah, all right, perfect, go." And I'm like, "No, but we have to pay like $300. I'm not going to pay a dime. You have to go by yourself and figure it out." And they weren't giving me the media passes. So I was like, shit, what do I do? So I decide to create this, brand awareness by doing this free coffee stand outside, because in my mind, I was like, everybody's going to be lining up outside, and that way I can cover the event. If I can't be inside, I'll be outside. Same thing. And I realized, all right, but I just can't stand there. So I start emailing all the speakers. So I look at the speakers list, and there were like 200 of them. And I would send the same message to all of them. I would get banned on Instagram for like an hour because I kept sending the same message. So I would have to go on Twitter. And then that's when I started realizing all these people were super big on Twitter. And I had never used Twitter. I had Twitter back in the day, but I never used it. So as I'm emailing all of them, only 2 people wrote back. And it was Ben from BTC Sessions and Alex Svetsky. But Ben was like, hey, I can't meet you for this interview, but like maybe another time. And Alex Svetsky, like in my message, I was like, hey, I'm a startup. Could I do an interview for you while you're here in Miami? I'll give you free coffee. And Alex Svetsky was like, I don't like coffee. And I'm like, fuck. All right, I'll give you cookies. He's like, no, I don't like sugar. And I'm like, okay, well, can I just interview you for, Ecom Daily News? He's like, no, but come to this meetup that is happening before the conference. And I was like, fine, I'll go to the meetup and I'll, see what I can get there, cover something. And he sends me this, like, 2 links. He's like, you got to get Telegram, you got to get Signal. We don't use WhatsApp, we don't use iMessage. And I'm like, okay. So I'm downloading everything and I show up to like the meetup that was at 7 and I go in. It was at this ramen noodles place in Brickell. And I'm sitting there and all of a sudden, he didn't show up at 7. It was just like a random meetup. And I overhear this couple talking about Bitcoin. And I'm like, hey guys, could I sit with you? And they start telling me about Bitcoin, the community, and I start asking more questions. And I realized these are the smartest people I have ever met. I'm like, something has to be right here. After a couple hours, Alex shows up and they start teaching me everything. Like, the community is so nice. That's one thing, like, people from the outside don't get, how maybe they're intimidating online, but in person, they are very nice. Like, they have the patience to explain everything. Everybody was just like high on life because the pandemic, they didn't have their conference in 2020. So this was like the first conference that they were all having because I think they moved it from California. And when we're sitting there, after a while, Alex is like, you know what? I like you. I'm going to help you get into the conference. Come tomorrow at noon and we'll figure it out. So I end up going to the conference through Alex as his media person. And I end up obviously covering the whole conference. And I was sort of like his personal chauffeur. I was his and Maddox and Francis. I would drive them everywhere and they would sneak me into all like the after events and everything. And I'm just getting orange pilled in the car in Miami by Francis telling me like, you need to understand you're not free until you have your own money. Your own money is Bitcoin. After those 3 days, I remember selling all my stocks and just going all in on Bitcoin in like peak 69K. And I've been in it ever since.
Man, that is a great, like quite a whirlwind introduction though. Like definitely like not typical. Like you had some of probably the best, let's say, orange pilling mentors that you could have had. Like that's pretty incredible. And you're so right about there's such a massive gap between the perception of toxic Bitcoiners online and then if you're ever in person, like anyone who's been to a conference knows this, like people are so happy to share their time with you, to share their expertise, to share their knowledge. Like it's like, yeah, we may be toxic online, but that's just because we got to keep our guard up. We got to fend off all of the fiat fuckery that's out there. But like, you got to say we're all just people, right?
Yeah, they're the nicest people ever. I remember when I joined and being part, obviously it's super overwhelming. I'm probably the one that joined like the latest. So not having any knowledge about Bitcoin and then going into like the Bitcoin industry, like you get so overwhelmed because people are so smart. And I remember thinking that we don't realize how early we still are. Because once you're in the Bitcoin community, you're like, oh, our train passed, we should have bought in this time. Like that, a lot of people I hear like say that like, oh, but we don't realize that the majority of the population, they still don't get Bitcoin at all.
We are still early, like really fucking early.
Really early.
Which is a good thing. And now, Julian, you will be forced to speak. Who are you? How did you get here today to be spinning up this new media empire with these other two based individuals?
It's so funny, like, because I know that Adam got started in 2013. I realized I got started in 2013 too, and our paths could not be any more different, but yet they've kind of come around, after 11 years. I found Bitcoin in 2013 because I literally just wanted peer-to-peer electronic cash to buy vegetables on the internet that I couldn't buy without. And
Mm.
that's all I cared about. I was like, I just like they say that I need this thing to get the actual thing that I want, so I'll grok it a little bit, just enough to be able to use it. I get my thing and I don't touch it for another 3 years, and then I start hearing about it again in 2016. I'm just finishing up my film degree at UBC. I am about to graduate. I have a little bit of leftover student loans to my name, about $3,000 worth, and so I hear about it again through our favorite shitcoin Ethereum, and I kind of go all in on that. Sold the whole, it's a smart contract thing. It's Bitcoin 2.0. I like the sound of that because Bitcoin 1.0 was a little bit daunting for me when I first used it. And that was 3 days before the DAO hack. And so I buy Ethereum. Within 3 days, it drops
Damn.
50%. And I'm like, oh man, that was all the money I had left. At least I'll make it back, a couple months of work, but let's just hold on to it and see what happens. And it got me down this rabbit hole of learning, oh, can they reverse the blockchain? What's the point of that if they can just undo it? And that is what kind of brought me back into Bitcoin, is learning about all that. But it took a very long time for that full circle to complete. In the meantime, I got really into Ethereum, smart contracts, learning about this stuff. Eventually went down a very dark path in terms of things that Bitcoin maxis wouldn't approve of. I started my own video production company, and our flagship offering was doing video animations for ICOs back in 2017. So I rose to the top. If you look up my business Kinetic Cuts, or you look up ICO Animated Explainer, my website is still like top 4 or 5 on the SEO for that. And we produced something like 20 or 30 ICO videos for some of the biggest ones. We did work for Binance's BNB token.
Damn.
We did like a couple little like things for that. So yeah, I got really into that shitcoiner, and I was sold. Like, I didn't think it was like a shitcoin. I thought blockchain changes everything, decentralized ledgers, and it really took like, seeing that whole thing collapse, the pandemic, and basically it wasn't really until I heard Michael Saylor talking about it and differentiating the difference, or the outlining the difference between Bitcoin and crypto, that I finally said, enough with this crypto shtick. The real revolution's Bitcoin. It's the only one that's going to last. I've seen enough of them fall, and I've seen the faults that all of them just keep seeming to repeat. And then I said, okay, like, that was a very long journey to get there and understand the difference. And so I want to shorten that for the other people. And the best way I know how to do that is just by making videos. Got in front of the camera. I've been doing YouTube since around 2019, 2020. Didn't get into it, more seriously until 22. And did all I could on my own while still trying to balance, another business and income, and dealing with Bitcoin. And then the level up moment came. It was in 22 that I met Adam. I forget how exactly we connected. I was doing like a little podcasting, trying to interview some people, and I just really hit it off with Adam. Invited him down to Guatemala because I wanted to go review a Bitcoin circular economy. I did like a little trip to El Salvador in 21. That was fun. I know a lot of people like in the Bitcoin space avoided the vax, and I didn't, unfortunately. And the only reason was because I wanted to film a Bitcoin documentary down in El Salvador, and you needed it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll take the poison and the destroyed sperm count just to make my film. Ended up doing that, and then 22 comes around. I have this idea. I want to go back down there. We'll do one in Guatemala. Adam comes with me. We do this film there. It does really well. Have a blast doing it and collaborating with another person. And then later that year, Mike Peterson from Bitcoin Beach sees that film and says, "Hey, you should check out what this group Motive is doing in Peru." I look into that. They have like 15 to 19 circular economies down there, and I have to make a film about that. But it's a bit of a bigger trip, so I'm like, okay, I gotta find someone to come with me. I've been following Isabella, I think, from the Bitcoin Magazine stuff, and then I just saw that you posted, oh, like it's Peruvian Independence Day. So I DM her. I'm like, yo, I want to do this documentary. Come with me. We'll figure it out. She's like, yes. I heard later that she thought I was a serial killer, and that's fine. Um, we make that in December. It came out a week or two ago, but in between that, I say, look, I got these two awesome, energetic individuals that love Bitcoin that really want to do something different in this space too, in terms of media. Let's just band together and we'll make something of it, and that is how Get Based got here.
I love the journey, and I want to dig into the doc that you guys made in Peru, because it was, first of all, it was fucking awesome, and like it was really genuinely powerful and incredibly eye opening, and I'll link it in the show notes because I thought it was just exceptionally well done. The story that you guys told down there was really important and kind of shifted my perspectives on some things as well. And I want to get into that a little bit, but maybe can you just talk a little bit about like what is kind of the ethos behind Get Based, and maybe a better question, what does getting based, what does based mean to you? I just asked right before we got on here. I fired off a tweet and a note on Noster, saying like, okay, what does based mean to you? And I got a lot of different responses, but I'm curious to you guys, what does it mean to get based, and how does that factor into like how you guys look at producing content, and who are you targeting with that content?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it is evolving. But let's nail that with like a little lightning round first, with just the meaning of based. For me, it means being authentic, and sometimes authentic to a fault. Like just saying things and not being fearful of what the crowd is going to react to when it comes to it. And as long as you're sticking to the truth, like not letting people's reactions shake you.
I like that. What about you, Isabella?
Yo, I didn't even know what based was. They actually taught me based, and Julian keeps telling me that I say it wrong. He's like, you can't use based
You
like
can't use it
this.
so liberally. You've
And
got to
I'm
use it
like,
when it makes sense.
it sounds so cool. Like for me, it's like, you're based. Like you're a dope human being. So I'm probably the worst one to say what does based mean. But from what I've gathered from them is someone that honestly just, you know, has woken up from the truth. They took it's the red pill they take, right?
Or
They
the
take the
orange, yeah.
NyQuil one, not the NyQuil.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's how I picture it. Like someone that knows what's going on. So I think that's probably what our company wants to do is make people wake up and choose their own path. Because obviously if you're still sleeping, you don't know what's going on. So you can't really be like you can't blame people that don't know, but if you know and you choose the wrong thing, I mean that's all on you.
Amen. Adam, what
Yeah, I
about
think
you?
it's a mixture of both those things. It's being awake. It's understanding, the truth, being able to critically think, understanding that, we don't take your word. We don't trust what you have to say. I mean, I think BTC Pay Server just released that video, My Trust in You is Broken. And like that is the ethos. It's you don't trust what people have to say. But then to Issa's point there, like the next phase is communication. The next phase is helping other people wake up, because I would be nowhere if it weren't for, my community and the people that I, trust, because I've verified, and understanding from them, how important it is to tell other people and to talk to other people. And I think that being based is like, yeah, not being afraid to say what you know to be true. And there was like, especially throughout, I think my like basedness increased dramatically throughout COVID, and like disagreeing with lots of it, but then taking the stance of like no, I'm not going to wear your mask. I'm not going to be rude to you, but I'm going to politely decline your ridiculous obligations. I'm not going to take your medicine. My kids will not be taking your medicine. Like we sent my kids to school without masks, and we had to get like fancy letters that said they were not going to wear a mask, and like, the whole doctor stamp and everything. But we did that. We did the extra work. And then it was interesting, like seeing parents text me and be like, what's the deal? How come? And I'm like, it's worse for them to wear a mask. Here's the science. Here's the reason. And then what do you know? A couple weeks later, their kids are not wearing a mask. And like, when you don't perpetuate, like, compliance to the blind is perpetuation of the lie. And that's specific to COVID. But now, like, generally speaking, like if we don't talk about Bitcoin to people, that don't know otherwise, we're perpetuating the lie of central banking. If we don't talk about, the negativity of seed oils to our health, we're perpetuating the lie that is big food. And that goes forever. That drives forever. If I don't tell you about life, after death and like, what eternity looks like, then that's a perpetuation of the lie that is, the great fall and sin. Like it literally translates across all of life. And I think that being based as someone that knows the truth, has verified the truth, understands the truth to be real, seeks more truth, and then tells as many people as possible. But I also think there's a bit of a balance there because we run the risk of being in our echo chamber, just like, you know, circle jerking each other off, like getting all excited about whatever it is we're excited about, and having that, like, I think the biggest risk to Bitcoin, the biggest risk to being awake, is that people perceive us to be toxic, and that people won't come near us because they're intimidated or they're afraid. And I think that collectively we need to be based and we need to deliver that message in such a positive, welcoming light that people are like, oh, I want to hear more about what that guy has to say. Because, like, I don't know about you, but there's been 0 street corner preachers that have ever converted anybody to, like, Christ. You do that by, like, loving people. And I think that the same attitude applies to Bitcoiners in, like, shouting that you're going to be poor and broke and dumb and dead is probably not how you're going to orange pill someone. Once you have a relationship, it certainly is. But that initial contact piece is so, and that's why I love this organization and this team, is because, we've got that message and we're nailing that message home. We're doing it in a modern, exciting, and positive way that people are like, I don't disagree with what that guy has to say, but I actually might, I didn't mind how he delivered that. Maybe I'll check it out again. And then it happens again and again. And then it's like, oh, that's actually a really good point. I didn't consider that. Now maybe I'm starting to open my mouth for the orange pill. And then it trickles down. But it's a low time preference gain. It's way easier to trick somebody than to convince somebody they have been tricked. This is one of my favorite mantras or quotes from this space. And there's a lot of people that have been tricked, and they're going to fight for their trickery. They're going to fight because, daddy government told them that it was the way and that was the right thing. Telling them they're wrong, that they've been lied to, is very difficult and very offensive. And so I think that, we're doing what's necessary and learning what is necessary to slowly educate people to wake them up.
If you consider yourself a based individual who pursues truth and does not trust but verifies, then you need some based, open-source Bitcoin-only hardware. Head to bitbox.swiss/Walker and use promo code WALKER for 5% off the fully open-source, Bitcoin-only Bitbox O2 hardware wallet. Then get your Bitcoin off the exchange and into your own custody. The Bitbox O2 is easy as hell to use whether you're brand new to Bitcoin or you are a well-seasoned psychopath. It's Bitcoin only, and again, it is fully open source. You can head to their GitHub and verify that for yourself. There is no need to trust me. When you go to bitbox.swiss/Walker and use the promo code WALKER, not only do you get 5% off, but you also help support this fucking podcast. So seriously, thank you. And thank you to Bitbox for being a sponsor of this show since the early days. It means a lot for a based company like yourselves to believe in this little old podcast.
But it's funny you say that because yesterday I was having a conversation with my mom about the pharmaceutical industry. And what I've been realizing is the truth is coming out eventually, and now we have things to back it up. So we were discussing Adderall use. And the thing is, like, now everybody's using Adderall and she thinks it's okay because everybody's using it. And she's like, I have to trust the doctor, what the doctor's saying. I'm like, Mom, Oxycontin. That's literally what's going on. The doctors were prescribing Oxycontin to everybody and anybody. That's your proof that you cannot trust the doctor. Even like you have to even do your own research. Even though the doctor says is okay, and being woke yesterday, I was like going back to doctor's appointments, and the ability for them to tell you how, like, take this medication, take this medication. Oh, you have acne? They were giving me a medication that I have to get blood work every single month. I was like, how is that even okay? Like, what? And my mom was like freaking out. She was like, oh my goodness, you're gonna have to be on antibiotics for the rest of your life. And it's like, you cannot even trust the doctors. And now we have proof that they even fucked up, that the whole system is corrupt. And sometimes we just gotta remind them and be like, they are the ones that are in charge of putting all these people that, like broke their legs or that had a concussion, whatever. They put them on Oxycontin, and then all of a sudden they're heroin addicts. People forget that. And it's like you have to constantly keep reminding them that the system is corrupt. There are, like, if you look a little bit further, there's some, proof that they fucked up and that things are not how they seem they are. They just forget.
And it's something that the incentives are so perverse and so broken, and it is so systemic. And, it's like, this is where Bitcoiners get grief sometimes, because we're like, well, Bitcoin fixes this because, fix the money, fix the world. But what we really mean is also fix the money, thereby fixing the incentives, thereby allowing the world to heal, to become better, because it's these perverted incentives. Like, to your example with doctors, it's like, well, why are they pushing that? Well, because they were getting kickbacks from Big Pharma for every new script that they're writing. And like, okay, so they're going to write as many scripts as they can because the incentives are so broken that they allow them to get rich by prescribing poison. Like, that's messed up. Like, the incentive shouldn't be structured that way. And I really appreciate these examples or these definitions of what based is, because I think they're right on the money. And what, like, to distill what you've all three kind of said here, it's about integrity, but not just having integrity, not being afraid to speak up and share your views that are based on your principles that you have come to, not just because you ingested someone else's worldview and regurgitated it, changing a few words, ChatGPT style, and made it your own mantra. No. It's because you did the work to understand it, to approach something and come up with a thought that is actually original and well-reasoned. And that's why you're sharing it.
And internalized. I think
yes.
That's the key, is like, we're not just, we're practicing what we preach, but we're also believe what we talk about. And I think that's a special thing.
It really is. And Julian, I think you may have started to want to say something, and I want to let you run if you do.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think I think where we differ in the challenge here is that we can have these beliefs, and I think a lot of people do, but people's approaches are so different to it. And I think there's a lot of based people out here, and the approach they've generally taken is, let's do it through these like raw conversations, or let's write a book. And I think these things are effective, but we have to look at when we want to move the cultural mindset and we want to get people to think a certain way, to seek out the truth, it still has to be approached sort of like a sales funnel if you want the movement to succeed. And I think the number one thing that Bitcoin's been missing is like that top of the sales funnel. Like, we have the middle, we have those deeper conversations. If you want to get in depth about anything on Bitcoin, there's a podcast for it. And then you have, bottom of the funnel, BTC sessions has all the tutorials on like how to actually physically get yourself there and get sovereign. But we're missing those hooks that really, again, like break out of the echo chambers and just get people curious to ask questions. And sometimes that content, like, it's got to be, those like little silly 60-second shorts that we do. But I still think while you're at the top of the funnel, you can go a little bit deeper in exploring things and really piquing people's interest and intrigue. And it's just, that's kind of the area where I really like to play. And I think all of us have kind of like come together on is there's so much room there. When we look at who has the top of funnel on the other side, it's big media, it's Hollywood. They get to produce these films that, send out certain messages. They get to have fun on their talk shows. Stephen Colbert gets to dress up people in like vaccine needles and do like a vax dance. And it's propaganda, but what we're doing is still a belief structure. And this is going to sound weird, but like, we need to do our own propaganda, and we need to do it well, because it's propaganda that pushes people towards the truth, that pushes people towards finding self-responsibility, and pushes people towards finding, sovereignty and meaning and purpose. And I think it's all for a good cause if it's approached like that. But that is, I think, the path moving forward. I think the most important thing that Bitcoin's creating, besides the protocol for sound money, is the subset of values that kind of come with what you basically need to adopt as a person in order to really grok Bitcoin, is which you have to understand that you cannot trust, anything. You have to figure out trust minimization in all aspects of life and really go towards verification. And you can preach that as much as you can, but people don't get it until they're kind of like clocked into it, and they start seeing their friends and their family and the culture kind of coalesce around that idea. And yeah, that's sort of like, that's sort of the goal right now. I think also there's a lot of talk in Bitcoin about how we need to like break out of the echo chamber, and some people go all the way to the other end of the spectrum. They're like, okay, like we really need to get out of this echo chamber. We need to appeal to the people who are our enemies first. So we're going to go to we're going to do, and there's nothing wrong with this. We're going to do the Progressive Bitcoiners podcast. We got to get people who are like so far on the other side and start roping them into what we're doing. And we've done a bit of that too, in some sense, because we're talking about, these like human rights use cases for Bitcoin. And I think that kind of appeals across the spectrum. But I think where the real meat is, and people don't really realize this, is I think that there's a ton of people that, Adam and I have called like the 90%ers, that are 90% there. They just don't actually have the understanding of what Bitcoin is and how it plays into the value set that we pretty much identically share with them. Yeah. And the people I'm talking about, the 90%ers, are the people who are homesteaders, who are fully, self-sovereign in their food supply, their energy, that understand, the value of keeping everything community tight versus relying on like a federal state. We're talking about the libertarians, which, surprisingly have very little knowledge on Bitcoin and are reaching out all the time to Bitcoiners to get them to speak and explain this stuff a little better to them. We're talking about, the 15 plus million people down in Argentina who voted for Milei because they want to, take charge of their own path and their own economic destiny and manifest that. There are millions and millions of people around the world who are so close, and all they need is that little push of curiosity into Bitcoin. And once they start to kind of like understand it, everything else is already in place. And those people are going to be the ones that push this movement out to everyone else.
I think that's such an important point. And one of the things I love about the content that you guys are producing is it is pain point focused first. Because even if you have no idea Bitcoin exists. So hypothetically, you have no idea. Somehow you have missed it in the news and everything else. You don't even know it exists. So a video about Bitcoin, that's first of all, it's not going to come up in your algorithmic, feeding funnel that's being given to you. It's not even, you're not even going to see it. But if you do see it and someone's leading with Bitcoin, well, you're checked out right away and you're clicking on to the next one. You're scrolling. But when you start with the pain points, when you start with, and it's like, any sort of good marketing or product design, it's like, the old mattress thing. Like, you're not selling somebody a mattress, you're selling them a good night's sleep. Right. So first you have to, you look tired, man. You're probably not sleeping very well, are you? Like, boy, I bet you'd love to get a full 8 hours on, and so that's how you sell. You don't sell it with, here's this mattress and here's all the fancy, whoopsie things it can do. And wow, look at how springy it is. No. And that's what I love about your guys' content, is that it starts out with the shrinkflation video that you guys did recently. Or even the banking one, the one with Jamie Dimon that you did, Isabella. I love that one. It was just rock solid. Few Epstein references in there too, which I love. Just wonderful. But this is what actually hooks people in, because if you can get them to agree that yes, this is XYZ is a problem. Yes, this is also a problem that affects me. Yes, this is something that I think is kind of fucked up. Then they're more open to receiving that orange pill, because a lot of people feel that there is a problem. They know there's a problem deep down, and they don't exactly know what the problem is, but they know something's broken. But even if they do know that what's broken is the money, they don't know what the solution is. And so I think to your point about the 90%, there are so many people who are looking for a solution because all they can do right now is complain about the problems. And Bitcoin, they may not know it yet, but it is that solution. But you have to be able to get them to agree with you on the problems first to be able to get them that extra, that extra 10% of the way. So I love the way you guys approach that. And I mean, how have you seen, I know you've had some stuff go pretty darn viral recently, like the one which was great, Julian and Isabella, where you push Julian out of the way, you're like, just start rattling off a ton of super based things, right? Like that one blew the hell up, right? Is that one of your, I would assume, most viral ones so far, like across platforms?
It was a pretty big one, yeah. On Twitter, they love that stuff.
Yeah.
Isabella really didn't want to do that. I know. She's
Really?
like, oh, this is so cringe. I'm like, trust me, trust me.
It was good. Like it worked really well. And like you threw in a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit, just
Exactly.
A little sprinkle, just a little sprinkle.
just a
And
You know, the thing is, a lot of people are like, oh, all these things are out on the internet, but creating all this content, once you have to go deep into the rabbit holes, and one thing that we've noticed is the research is so hard to find because they dig it and dig it and dig it. So when people are like, oh, they're not learning because they're not putting in the time, it's not even just that. Like they're trying to suppress all this information that backs up all the claims, and we see it constantly, especially like with the Boeing plane. If you want to Google the whistleblowers, you can't find all of them there. You can't find pictures of them. They bury the things so deep. So people, after 2 minutes of, trying to search, they forget and they're like, oh, I'm not going to Google that anymore. So we can't even blame the people for even trying because they probably do try to put in the work, but they make it so hard for people to find the truth that it's insane what they're doing. It's kind of scary when you start to think about it. Sort of like what, I don't know if you guys have all read 1984, but it's sort of, I feel like, George Orwell was a visionary. I don't know if he did lay down a roadmap for these countries to start treating us like that, or, he was a visionary and he saw it before his time. But it's crazy to me how hard this information is hard to get on people's hands, because nowadays they're just blowing, even, and I'm saying it coming from from a fiat, TV channel where we used to, do news and everything. We're not even getting the right information because the information is really hard to find.
what I worry about too with this is this is a pro and a con thing, but the reason that YouTube, every single streaming platform has since 2014, they all peaked in the amount of time that the average American spends watching it. So Netflix peaked 2014. People watch less Netflix today than they did back then. The only platform that has increased viewer time since the peak of all the streaming platforms is YouTube, right? And why is that? Well, it's constantly fresh. You're constantly getting new shows. You don't have to worry about a union telling you what you can and can't produce. And it's great. And I don't know how much time you guys spend on YouTube, but I spend an ungodly amount of time watching videos, and it just knows exactly what I want to watch. And the cost to create the shows that we're creating now, like if I wanted to do that 15, 20 years ago, it would take like a whole team. And now I got Google and YouTube and ChatGPT. The problem is now with what AI is doing is that it's empowering people to think I can basically make anything because I have a little tool in front of me that can do all the research. The problem is you can't. You literally cannot do research on specific subjects on these things, and they deter you from going down those rabbit holes. I wanted to do this funny script, and this is the most tame thing ever. This happened last night. I wanted to do a script of the top 3 pickup lines to use on Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, former Fed Reserve.
Oh, I love this already.
I'm not good with jokes. Let's try and get ChatGPT to figure it out. So I ask, I'm writing a script and I want to hit on Secretary Yellen. Can you give me some funny play on words? And the first thing it says is, we have to be careful and respectful of public figures. We wouldn't want to say anything disrespectful, and it gives me these really lame jokes. And I said, can we dial up the raunchiness? Can we dial it up a little bit more? And ChatGPT's like, I can't do that. I can't have you say anything that's disrespectful to our secretary chairwoman. And I get this red violation marking. If you've ever used ChatGPT too far, it's you can't do that. These are jokes. These are
Right.
jokes. This is not, I'm not trying to create or find evidence on something or even like look up a wrong think fact. It's like I just want some raunchy jokes and I can, tone it down if I need to and it wouldn't do it. And so people don't realize like the perniciousness of that is that if I'm inclined to make a video researching a really, a taboo topic, for instance, and I'm getting these on every platform I use. Grok too. I mean, Elon is the free speech guy, but you can't get too deep on Grok
Nope.
with this stuff too. Now that everyone relies on these, GPT programs to do their research, they're just getting turned away. And then you couple that with Google not wanting to show you this stuff. The hardest script, we're putting together this script on basically the transgender industrial complex and how pharmaceutical companies are profiteering off of gender dysphoria. And my God, there are a lot of studies out there, but they are basically impossible to find. We've had to contact people in this space that have looked at these studies and get them just mailed directly to us because we
my
cannot
God.
find them on Google and these other research databases. They're just completely buried. So, yeah.
It's sad.
It is, quick aside here. Have you guys tried unleashed.chat that
No.
NVK put out there?
NVK.
No.
Unleashed what?
Is it a
Go to
based GPT?
unleashed.chat. You can, first of all, top up your account in Bitcoin. They don't save
Beautiful.
any data. So any data you have is stored locally. You can clear it anytime. Nothing's, saved on any servers. They have multiple LLMs for you to choose from with different rates for how much, each like token costs basically. But you top it up with Bitcoin. It's completely private. You don't need to use an email to sign in, even if you don't want to. It's very nice. And because I talked to him about this on the show, and he basically said all of these LLMs, they have guardrails put in where like to what you said, Julian, like if you start asking these certain types of questions, they'll be like, well, hey, now let's be respectful. We wouldn't want to ruffle anyone's feathers up at the top of the pyramid, And he's just doing whatever he can to pull out and there's a whole community of open source people who take these models that have been made open source and try to find whatever guardrails they can. And maybe they can't find all of them, but they find as many as they can and they rip them out. And so he surfaces those models. You pay for your consumption in Bitcoin, which great. And it works exceptionally well. And I'll run it side by side with ChatGPT sometimes. And ChatGPT is still, I would say, it's a cleaner experience if you're operating within the bounds of what they want you to ask. But this one, you can try it out. Ask it anything. Unleashed.chat. I would highly recommend it to anybody who is frustrated with ChatGPT. But that's also the beauty of while it is kind of fucked up and sad and scary that there are so many guardrails put in place, and not just on these GPT models, but on Google itself. Like we saw that when Google came out with their own little AI, and it was like, make the picture of the founding fathers, and it's like, wow, I didn't know they looked like that. That's a little weird. But at the same time, while there's all of that happening, information wants to be free, right? It wants to propagate as much as it can want anything. And so I am so, while it's easy to get nihilistic about some of these things, because it's like our fucking overlords are putting all of these goddamn, bumper rails in place for us. It's like, well, there's also a bunch of super based people out there who are like, nah, let's rip off those training wheels and let's see how fast this thing can go. And so that is a thing I'm hopeful about. At least there's based people out there who know what they're doing with code and can free this information a little bit, because
But it's kind of sick if you start thinking about it, because if you guys started using ChatGPT at when it first came out and it was open source and people were using it, it was incredible. The things that you could do were insane. But then they start putting all these limits and these boundaries, and I don't think we're slow, we're not realizing it, but we're being tracked everything. With every single thing. So you put in your email there. Let's say that email is connected to your Amazon. And then I don't know if you guys have Whole Foods, but now if you go to Whole Foods, you can even pay with your hand. And the thing is, at first, I didn't realize, I was like, why would they want to connect your Amazon account to Whole Foods? And then I start realizing it's all to get your history to know what you like so they can predict everything about you, because you link your Amazon account to your Whole Foods. So now they know what you're buying in Whole Foods. You know, they know what you're interested in. They know what you feed your body. They know all your Amazon orders. They know what you're searching on Chat GPT. And the thing is, it's all connected, and it's all to get ads to fund you so you can spend more money and feed it to the top 1%. And it's this vicious cycle that innocent people are just like falling into this trap because convenience. ChatGPT is a convenience. Everything is a convenience now. Oh, I'll just link it to my email. It's all connected. Like, they're making us depend on the system for convenience. Why do we have, an Apple, and I'm, a victim to this. I don't write down my passwords anymore. I use, my phone to save all my passwords, but we're handing, these companies that store all this data because for convenience. Even Tesla is super insane. They have these, most of us think, oh, they're saving electricity, blah, blah, blah. No, what Tesla's actually doing is every little thing, they're tracking it and saving it into this sort of like data warehouse. So if you have a Tesla, the way that you put your AC in the car, that's being noted. When you put on your blinkers, when, put down your window, every little thing is being tracked and kept for God knows how long in these data warehouses. So we're all like, oh, Elon Musk, freedom of speech. We have to be careful. This man has so much information about all of us. And the thing is, the way that he's doing it is super sneaky, in a way that we don't realize. But all these people have all their information in these data warehouses. Now he has all of our information because of X. Plus the people that now get paid on X from Elon, he's getting all this and just can track and know what you're going to do, because we're all human and we're like animals of habit. I was watching a podcast and they say, if you do one thing, like let's say you lie, that's not the first time you've lied before, like you've lied again, like you've lied before. So when we see people do one thing, they've done it again. So Elon is just stacking all our patterns, and he's going to be able to predict everything from all of us. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I used to think, because I used to be really into analyzing, how much is this company valued or overvalued? And the market, before Elon got involved on Twitter, totally had it wrong. Like, I think the market gave Twitter a $25 billion valuation, and you look at the daily active users, I think it's around 150 million. And the power of that data, like you can basically, through language modeling, you can figure out, who's gonna react, very intensely to criticism, right? And these LLMs are able to find data that we just wouldn't think of. They can make these connections, and like Isabella, you're totally right about the predictive modeling. Like, what you do in your Tesla is one thing, but being able to basically assess like speech and behavior patterns through someone's incessant tweeting, that's super valuable. And there's millions of people who every day are giving all that data over to X, and they're time stamped, and it's like that data is so granular and so valuable and will continue to be valuable as long as you're alive. And then the next step for them is, we're going to implement, a payment rails in X so that we can start logging your transaction data as well. I mean, he got a steal for $30-40 billion when you look at it like that, because that is going to be valuable for like tens and hundreds of years, unless the regulators come down on it, which we'll see. But we have Noster for that.
Well, I would actually like to ask you guys, because you've done something which I've tried to do as well on Noster, and just so you guys know, I will say Noster, not Noster, but I also say hodl, not hodl. So I just want to put that out there, just to let you guys know.
I'm a hodl guy, but I'm a Noster guy. So
okay,
we'll have to agree to disagree.
Potato.
Yeah, okay, we'll let it slide there. And that's the beauty of these things, right? Say it however you want. Like, Bitcoin doesn't care, Noster doesn't care. But you guys have done.
You mean Bytecoin, right? That's how I say
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's actually Titcoin. I don't know if you
Yeah,
can. Yeah. No, but you guys have done this like Noster first kind of strategy with deploying a lot of your content. Like I think for the documentary, you did that as well, where you're like, look, we're going to put this up to try and kind of put our voice where our values are, our money where our mouth is, and try to distribute content on this open, decentralized, permissionless network first. And then, we're going to put it on YouTube. We're going to put it on X. We're going to, I don't know, put it on Rumble as well, whatever. But I'd love to hear just a little bit about, because, we're talking about all this data ownership. And Isabella, you had an awesome quote from, I'm forgetting which video it was of yours, but one of the recent videos you guys released, which is every day we make a choice between ownership and being owned. And I thought that was really beautiful. And Nostr is kind of flipping the script there, where it's like, no, you own, this is your private key and public key. You own this, and you can take that and go to whatever client you want. You're not siloed into a walled garden. So I'd love to hear about, as content creators, making very based content that has, like this new video you're coming out with will probably get flagged and deboosted on YouTube. Just guessing that it might.
You can post it on YouTube. We'll see.
Yeah, right. So
I'm not owned by them.
Yeah, right. So how have you guys found that experience? Are you thinking also about how to kind of create more, let's say, Nostr first experiences moving forward? How does that factor into kind of your content creation strategy in general? And what do you guys see as like the benefits for other content creators who might be feeling a bit trapped in these walled gardens?
Mm-hmm. I'll give my take on it. What I really enjoyed about Noster is it does feel like something new. I remember back in the day, the MSN Messenger IRC chat rooms, and it's got that vibe where even though everything you're posting is public, it sort of feels like no one except your core, Noster buddies are going to see it. And maybe one day you can go back and like go through all of Jack's and my old posts to see what we were like yapping about on Noster. But there's two things. Number one, I have been incredibly blessed, and it's probably been a lot because you share my content, Walker. But like, I've gotten a lot of sats from posting videos on there, and not enough to like pay for all the content, but there's a pathway there. And I think the pathway is if Noster can get maybe 10 to 50 times more daily active users, a lot of content creators could use that as a primary source of income. So that's the barrier, is you guys got to figure out how to 10x or 50x that thing over there. And I'll do my best, but right now, definitely, having to pick a client and, these things are dodgy. They don't work half the time. It makes it hard for people. But like every day there's some brand new client, like Primal is just a killer experience. And it's been very easy to just recommend people get started with Primal. The second thing that I really love about Noster is, even though it's all public, anyone can go in there and they can see my posts if they're a day early. There's something really cool about posting something to that community where I know that it's mostly Bitcoiners, and just seeing how the stats rank up. It gives me almost a predictive capability of if a video is going to go viral, because I think I have about 4,000 or 5,000 followers on Noster, and if I post a video that gets 200 likes within the first day, I know that's going to get 10 to 100,000 on the other platforms. If I post one that gets 30, 40, it'll just do kind of average, and that's had a 99% hit rate for me. So I post my videos, my shorts, a day early on Noster. They get shared around. They take off on one of the big ones, the big four: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, right after. And that's kind of fun, and that also lets you get some early data on what you're doing before you kind of really broadcast it to the world. Now, that's not going to exist if Noster gets, to the same level of adoption as Instagram, TikTok, or even, a palpable percentage of it. But it's really fun right now because it's kind of this like testing ground. And I also find the vibe on Noster is very positive. So people will like leave longer comments and get a little bit more granular when they're critiquing you. So yeah, for me, it's a fun thing. And I think the killer feature is the zapping. That network just has to grow a little bit, but what's the term? The flywheel effect will really start once I think he can get to about 100,000 daily active users, because then you're going to have at least 20, 30 content creators from different niches, not just Bitcoin, probably making daily content on there. and they're going to be getting zapped, and they're going to tell all their friends, and it's just going to get going. I think right now it's like me and you and a couple other people. There's not a lot of video people on there, but I don't think it's that far, and it's a question of what pushes people to it. The problem with these decentralized open protocols is people usually get pushed to them out of fear or greed. The greed component doesn't really work with Nostr because there's no monetary unit attached to it. So when we think about, how is Nostr going to get, pushed a lot, it kind of relies on centralized authorities clamping down on communication channels and people saying, hey, I need to have an open source alternative. And I wish there was another way about it, but that's what probably makes the adoption of Nostr a little bit trickier than Bitcoin in the long run.
Adam, what about you?
Yeah, I think, bang on. I think when we come down to it, Isa's quote is that's the one there, you own or be owned. And I think that the downside to Nostr is the same downside to Bitcoin, which is the lack of centralization. There's no marketing team. There's no leadership group. We've got we'll call them fans, right? Like Jack is doing a great job pushing the Nostr way. But again, it's done to a certain community. And I think that if social media as a whole took 10, 15 years to become the conglomerate that it is today, it's probably 25, 30 years for decentralized versions of that to happen. And to Julian's point, the thing that nobody realizes yet, or that very few people, especially on the left, realize, is that when you vote for censorship, you vote to censor yourself as well, because opinions change on both sides as the pendulum swings. And right now it's the right getting censored, and right now it's the right flocking to Nostr and platforms like Rumble. And I think that it will be a matter of time before the opposite viewpoints are criticized by the clowns in power at the time, and that'll push people to censorship-resistant platforms. But I think that it'll be, for right now anyways, it's going to feel really awesome, and it's going to be more of a positive vibe, because it's what Twitter was 15 years ago. It's what Bitcoin was 10 years ago. It's like there's no, like the early days of Bitcoin, there was no block wars contemplated. Like that didn't exist because it was a small group of people pretty aligned, like 99% aligned in what happened. But then as more people come in, different opinions, different motives, different incentives, different ideas of the future, different time preferences, they start to try to change things. They start to try to, mix things up and make things a little bit different. And I think, though, the key to success for decentralized platforms like that are going to be platforms like Rumble, which are like, we're free speech, but we're centralized. And then eventually, it's kind of like that gateway into a truly decentralized platform and protocol. So yeah, I'm super bullish on Nostr. I think it's fantastic. I think you need to, it's like Bitcoin, man. You have to lower your time preference to be successful on there. You have to understand that there's no algo pushing virality. Like, it's just your community. That's it. It's only your community that can push virality. But there is too, there is minor hacks that you can do on Nostr because of the centralization that exists in clients and how certain clients work. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to take time, and we have to all check our time preference. Like, I think Julian's zaps there are a complete edge case. I think we're decade away from, having viable monetization on that, especially with no ads, and it becomes this pay to play, which again Bitcoin fixes. So yeah, super bullish, but I think my cautionary tale is check your time preference and understand that it takes time. When you don't have a marketing department and a central leader making decisions, everything is slower.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's okay. I think that's fine to preserve the integrity and the benefits that, and the problems that it's solving.
Mm. Cool. Isabella, how was your experience on there been? Because you've been pretty active for a while.
Sorry, I think Adam has to dip here. I don't want to.
Oh yeah, no worries. Okay. Yeah, wait. How are you guys doing on time?
I'm good. I got time still.
I just realized that the time was flying. Okay.
He's the only one here with a real job.
Okay.
I don't know.
I did run to the bathroom.
We're just influencers here.
Yeah, do it.
breaks.
Yeah. This we're not live, so you're good. Yeah. Do
Ah,
it. Yeah.
Dylan. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
Adam.
I'm gonna rip for real. Walker, is a pleasure, man. Looking forward to chatting more in the future. And yeah, stay sovereign, everyone. See you later.
Stay
See you,
sovereign,
man.
get bait.
Stay sovereign.
Okay. Yeah, Isabella, go to the bathroom.
Thank you.
If Julian, you guys,
I'm
you guys
okay.
good? You guys good for a couple more minutes? Because I actually would love
Yeah, for sure,
to dig
dude.
into
Yeah.
to your experience. Get to that bathroom. Come on now. I would love to dig into the experience in Peru a little bit if you guys are game. I
100%,
I
100%.
probably shouldn't have saved it for the end, but there were so many based things to discuss.
Oh,
That
Adam is like it's hard to get three people on a podcast that have such different backgrounds because Adam can like he has some unbelievable stories that are worth
yeah,
diving
that
into. So
I know. Yeah, we're gonna have to do. Maybe we'll have a semi regular based catch up with you guys because I'm just loving the content you guys are creating, and I think it is very much like it's scratching an itch that has been there for a while, and you're doing it very well.
thank you. I hope so. I think yeah, like you feel these things out like that there is a market for it. Um, and the challenge is like we know the demand is there. We do as much as we can with the supply, but the tricky part is you run into these models like everybody wants Uber Eats, but who pays for it in the end, right? Like the shareholders pay for it because this model is not unprofitable, and so that's the tricky part. I'm a very conservative person. I don't like borrowing money to do things, but I also have an endless spigot of very expensive ideas to get the word across. And it's like, what ones do we pursue first versus try and stay solvent through all this, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's honestly, it's a good thing to kind of talk about maybe in relation to how you guys fundraised for that trip to Peru as
hmm
well, because
yeah.
that was a pretty cool effort, and I think that again, it's so easy in the Bitcoin space community, whatever you want to call it, to get flack for taking money for what you do. Like, and Carl and I, as an example, like we were able to do a lot of the stuff that we were doing prior to having a child, and being a little bit shorter on time. But did like a couple of sponsorships, and but for the most part, just we're doing everything as kind of a side projects because we, had fiat jobs and we're comfortable with that. And we're like, okay, we're going to be very choosy about any potential sponsorships that we do.
hmm
But at the same time, it's like if for people that are going full into like creating content in and around Bitcoin, like you need to still pay the bills and put food on the table and I think people seem to think because they have a couple examples of like the really big folks in the space, like the biggest podcasters who have, like tons of sponsorship opportunities and make a bunch of money from this, they think that somehow like that's just always available and on the table for everyone. But it's like, no, that is not the case. It's especially in more bearish times, it seems like it's, pulling teeth to try and get any of that. So
Oh
I'd
yeah.
love to dig into how you guys had, the struggles you had trying to fund that trip and just kind of, oh, she's back already. I
Back.
don't even know if I'm gonna cut this part. I might just leave this part in, just enjoy it on music on the side. But no,
Bathroom breaks.
but before Isabella, I wanted to dive into the Peru story a little bit. But before that, I did want to give you a chance if there was anything on the Noster side that you wanted to add on there before we kind of change gears a little.
For the Noster or Noster, I would just have to say, honestly, like I started using it a lot, but I still feel like there's some barriers to entry, especially with the video content.
hmm
Because you can't post like long form videos, so you get so discouraged all the time when you want to post something, and then it says, like, oh, sorry, like exporting, failed, you gotta try again. And that has been like such a huge turnoff for me because it keeps me from going because I'm like trying to upload because I'm a visual person. So I want to share so many things like visually, like what I do, because that's how I like to see things. And we tend to do like what we want to see. So for me, like I tried at the beginning a lot, but that has been one of the things that I'm has guided me to stay on like, censored platforms because it needs to improve. I feel like at the same time, like it needs time and it's new and I like to be part of it obviously at the beginning, but that would be my only concern with Nostr.
I'll give you guys a couple of, if I may, a couple of tips for longer form. So I don't know if you've seen what Pablo's doing with Highlighter.
No.
If you just go to highlighter.com, I highly recommend you check it out.
It's sort of like it's like similar to Patreon.
Exactly, but it's also like he's first of all, he's an incredible developer, but he's building out some really nice
Great
tools.
domain name. Highlighter.com.
I know somebody just gave him the domain that they had lying around, I guess, like incredible domain name.
Yeah.
I would, if I had a domain that cool though, I would give it to Pablo as well because he's amazing. And then so I've started uploading all my shows onto Highlighter, but I do the upload through, if you go to satellite.earth, another cool domain, they will let you can pay in Bitcoin for storage space. So you can upload I've uploaded like all my recent shows to there. And then I just drop the URL into Highlighter, copy and paste the same info from YouTube, and it's good to go. So it also may be an interesting, like for what you guys do, I'm sure people would love to see like behind the scenes stuff. Like you can offer that as, a tier of perks. Okay, if you want to support us for however many sats a month or a year, like we'll give you some access to this, like, behind the scenes bloopers, how it's made, what are our tips and tricks for other content creators. Just something to think about. And I can drop you guys some links afterwards, but highly recommend Highlighter. And Pablo is like, it's improving on a daily basis. I just had an issue with a video uploading. I DM'd him. I was like, hey, is this just me? Or and he's like, oh, nope, found the bug. Just fixed it and deployed. Should be good to go now. I'm
I love that. I've used so many like apps like that. Yeah.
But wait, you download a YouTube and then you put it there?
No, I just take the raw file that I'm using that I'm also uploading to YouTube or Rumble, Twitter, whatever, and I just drop it and I host it on this satellite.earth, and then I can drop the link right into Highlighter. It pulls the video from satellite.earth. You can upload a thumbnail, all of that still, and it's all displayed on your profile in Highlighter in a really, really visually appealing way. So
I'm gonna give that a shot.
Yeah.
My big challenge is I've been using this one called Nostr.build, and like I feel bad because the other day I like called out the guys. I was saying, hey, like I thought I got a year subscription and now it's telling me I didn't and I paid for this and it wasn't working, and they like fixed it real quick. But the thing was, they've kept a fixed sat price for data, and I get it. Like we want to live on a Bitcoin standard, we want to use Bitcoin as unit of account. But the one thing that should be very deflationary in all terms is data, like data storage. And so it was something like 5 GB. It was, almost $200 a Bitcoin for 5 GB of annual hosting, which to me was like, that's one video for me. I'm not going to pay that much to host one video. So it's tough. I get it. Like the businesses have to make sense. But the thing with data is it's all economies of scale. And so people, I want to support these things, but we've got to get the price down as Bitcoiners somehow. If they're hosting their own data servers, that's one thing. But yeah, data is the one thing that it's just like phones. Like we're just used to getting more for less all the time. But if you use Bitcoin as unit of account, it's the opposite. You're getting less for more every time. Those sats are so valuable as time goes on. So it's a really hard thing to peg.
It's true. I think these businesses will figure it out too. Like I've got a chance to meet Nostr Build in person down in Costa Rica.
Oh,
awesome
great.
Dude, like doing incredible stuff. And I think there's going to be hiccups with these sorts of things because we're still early. We're still early with Bitcoin, very still early with Nostr. These things will improve. And they also that's the great thing about this kind of Nostr community being small is that when you have a problem or you see an opportunity to do something better, like you can actually talk to the developer on Nostr and be like, hey, here's how I think this experience could be improved. And that's a beautiful thing that people it's really good real-time feedback. So I would, keep finding things that don't work and let people know how they can work. And that's That's how we all get a little bit better. But yeah, I'll drop you guys some links. But for anyone listening, you should also check out highlighter.com. And if you go to highlighter.com/Walker, you can become a Titcoin maximalist subscriber. So yeah, little plug. But okay, I want to. So Julian and I were chatting just about like the difficulties of fundraising in the Bitcoin space, and I also wanted to talk about Peru. Because you guys, for anyone that hasn't, go to their YouTube channel. I'll drop it in the show notes. Incredible, like 45-minute, I think, documentary. I hope that it'd be. When are we going to see that thing on Netflix, first of all, or at least maybe on Amazon? It was incredible, though. But I'm not going to talk about it anymore because you guys were there and made it. So, talk to me about that experience. Talk to me also about like the difficulties with making it happen from a financial standpoint, and actually like, because that was a large undertaking, a lot of travel, a lot of work. So how was it all?
Oh man, it was, you know what? Like all things considered, I actually think it went a lot smoother than I anticipated because I'm one of these people that just always prepares for the worst. So I was like, oh, maybe like we had these planes very tightly scheduled back to back to back between all the locations, and it's Peru, and you never know what's going to happen, and these little airports in the middle of nowhere. Um, but that all worked out. I did definitely taking it on was tricky because I knew if we're going to do this right, like there's 15 towns, we can't just visit one. Like we got to go to a couple and we'll try and find the ones that are the most, unique and distinct. And yeah, it involved, plane tickets for 3 to 4 people each time. Isabella's cousin went to help us film a lot of this stuff too, hotels for all of us, making sure that we didn't get, Zika or dengue or food poisoning, although Isabella didn't escape that one. But there's a lot of considerations, and like usually all the docs I've done, it's just been I go with a camera and I make it happen. But I wanted the vibe for this one to be a little bit different, where rather than me, basically recapping what I experienced, I really wanted people to feel it through our eyes. And I've gotten some criticism on the doc where people say, oh, it kind of just feels like a very long, like vacation vlog. But I really enjoy that style a lot more because it keeps you as an active participant in what's going on rather than, hey, we went here and we did this and the B-roll is really nice, but it's just like Julian's voiceover for 30 minutes. And it was a lot more fun getting in the weeds there, capturing our feelings in real time and then letting the people that we interviewed tell the story, hopefully a lot more than we had to. But yeah, the big challenge with that was, okay, we're going to pull this off. We're going to need to raise, $10,000, $15,000 probably to do it right. And I thought the only way we're going to do that is I don't have the sponsor connections to pull that off and get, maybe 5 or 6 sponsors that would put in like 2 or 3 thousand each. And I was really racking my brain. And my last resort was I'll sell the coins. I'll take the hit for the 5th, 6th time. I'll sell a crap load of Bitcoin to make a video. That was the fallback plan, but the idea came from Mike Peterson because he's been doing Bitcoin Beach for a while. They've done these crowdfunding, mini campaigns where they've raised Bitcoin, and they've been very successful doing it. And he said, look, just do it all out in the open. Tell people what your intent is, show them the plan, and then give them different ways to contribute. Right? Don't just say, hey, give us whatever you can afford. Gametize it, give them some perks. And so it just clicked with me because a long time ago, I used to do videos for Kickstarter projects. And so that's all about perks. Like people feel like they click something and they're buying it and they're getting something in return. The tricky part is when you're funding a film, what are you going to give people, right? A credit in the movie. So we had to kind of think, what are things that we can do? And one of the ideas was to do these donations in person. And Isabella filmed all those and she's been posting them on the Get-based site. So, you give $50 worth of Bitcoin, we give away 25, we film it, you get to be a part of the story. We had these like producer credits. We had different levels of sponsorship. So, one where you have just your name in there, a second where we do, like a full credit, or maybe we show your product in the video. Crypto Cloaks had their signs and the Bitcoin trading cards. We gave those out and that became part of the film.
That was a cool scene, by the way, with the kids with the cards. That was really cool.
They were loving that. And then the third part was you get the full 45-second call out, and it feels genuine. And we had a great sponsor with the Bitcoin Coalition of Canada there. I was really happy that they're the ones who nipped at that versus, go buy this wallet or that, because it kind of that would change the vibe if I started selling a product. And this was more a sponsorship about, what we're trying to do in Canada, and I'm Canadian, so that was awesome. But yeah, between I would say the big donors made up, 40, 50% of the raise, and then the rest was about 130 plus plebs with donations between, 1,000 sats to 200,000 sats, which is, like $1 to $100 or so. And that carried us over the line. And then number went up during the production. So we were going to stay in this dingy hotel in Iquitos, but Iquitos is not the place where you want to stay in a
No.
hotel without AC. And the number went up, and we were like, okay, like let's do it properly at the Hilton. It's only gonna be one night anyways. Let's do like the DoubleTree Hilton. It's right in the middle of town. We'll feel decent after a bunch of like, running around the jungle. And yeah, we still went like a little over budget, but I'm so grateful for everything that everyone like helped us raise with that. And I think there are some other films in Bitcoin that have done like a crowdfunding campaign, but I think a lot of that is planned from the top down, where they kind of, they've already picked out their sponsors ahead of time and they're just looking for revolving donations. And for us, it was very clear. It was, a quarter of a Bitcoin, we can pull this off. And number went up and it worked. And I think when you have that clear end goal, it just makes it easier for people to just hit the donate button, and they can buy a perk on the way. And yeah, it worked out.
But you gotta be real here. We got rejected by a ton of huge sponsors that we wanted.
Oh yeah,
You know, and that's one of the things that we
that's a
noticed
really good
and
point.
pushed us to
Yeah.
start Get Based, because we had these great ideas, and not many people, have the time, most importantly, to drop everything and go to a different country and cover what they're doing.
Hmm.
So we were like, why don't we try to, get some sponsors to, help us make it happen? And the amount of rejection that we noticed, they don't want to take risks. Something,
Hmm.
I don't know if, I don't want to get hate here, but, love all the Bitcoin companies, but most of them are sort of fiat based. They have fiat mentalities. They're like, we don't want to risk anything. We don't want to go outside the boundaries, outside the safe zone, which is sponsoring, just the big podcasters. We don't want to take any risks. We want, something that is concrete, will get us the numbers.
Yeah,
And,
give us the KPIs. Like we need to know all your viewership metrics before, and we're gonna, the CPM has to be within this range, like that stuff.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what kind of like sort of, obviously the Bitcoin community pulled through, but I was kind of like brokenhearted with the lack of trying to, incentivize things that are outside the box, because Bitcoin in itself, it's thinking outside of the box, not
Hmm.
being stuck in status quo. And we see some of these companies try to playing it safe, try to, they have all this money for marketing, but they want to market how the fiat companies market. I'm not saying like, oh, just don't, I'm not trying to be like, you should sponsor every little thing or
Yeah.
everyone that gives you. But when it's a project that it's not for the people, but it's for, these communities or organizations that are honestly, that might not have the funds to keep pursuing and doing good out in the world,
Hmm.
that's what I was like,
Yeah.
that's kind of fucked.
Well, it's okay. It's tough, right? Because we can't act like we deserve their money, or like,
No,
it
but
belongs
it's
to
like
us.
people like motive.
Yeah.
How are they running out of money when they're doing what supposedly all the Bitcoiners think they should
Want to
do?
have. Yeah.
You know what
Well,
I mean?
I'll give you like I'll wrap this in a bow because I don't want to like name names, and I did a whole presentation in Adopting Bitcoin about this. But all the donors that we got, basically all of them are founder-led companies with probably less than 5 employees. So really small businesses sponsored this. And, between Isabel and I, like we reached out to at least half a dozen or more bigger Bitcoin companies, exchanges, brokers, etc. We got rejected by all of them. I think between us, we've heard back from at least half that say, "Oh man, I wish we got involved in that. Or like, oh, we'll sponsor it now. And I'm like, what's out? It's done. Like you had your chance.
Yeah.
You didn't believe in us. So sorry. Catch us on the next one, I guess. But you know what? It's we have to do this too, right? Like we can't go around thinking that, we've perfected this game and there isn't room for improvement and that, we have the numbers to earn, multi-thousand-dollar sponsorships. Like we have to put in the proof of work as well. And eventually the thing is that, when this train does take off and there is, real momentum and we're starting to grow a following that is comparable to some of the biggest players in the space, we're going to be the most expensive things to sponsor because it's not just going to be about you get this name attached to it. You get 3 names attached to it, and all our productions are super like high fidelity things. It's not a person in a studio. It's like we're going out and we're launching things in outer space. That's a video we have coming soon. And then we're traveling around the world to like 20 countries to see what Bitcoin adoption is like. So the projects will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the asks out of the sponsors are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So
so if you're listening to this as a sponsor, get in now while you can still afford it.
You'll get the grandfathered rate because this train's not going to stop. I will burn through my Bitcoin stash to make sure that the stuff that we do gets out to more people.
I don't want to like hate to any like the sponsors and stuff, but for me it's more like preach what you sell. If you're preaching out there something, do something, like, you know what I mean? For me, that's like my mentality of it.
You're in the riskiest industry in the world, like reputation wise, financial wise, but you want to treat your marketing like you're in the safest industry in the world. And it's like, these things are not going to work forever.
That's kind of like what, obviously, like I respect all companies, do whatever you want to do, but preach what you sell at the same time, like I'm not even saying it like for us, but for me, it's like motive. How are we letting motive run out of funds? Like that project, what Vale and Rick are doing over in Peru is mind-blowing because they're not only teaching people about Bitcoin, they're using it as a tool for freedom, because eventually that's what it's going to come down to. People are going to use Bitcoin peer-to-peer. All this about the government, most of the people are not going to care about that. They're just going to use it for peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And Motive is helping them build their values. Because as a Bitcoiner, that's one of the things that unifies all of us, our values. We sort of have like the same mentality, not like the same mentality, but we all value freedom. We all value family. We all want to make and leave the world better than we found it through decentralized money. I think that's where the phrase fix the money, fix the world comes through. So they're fixing the world and also adding the money in there and changing the money system. So it breaks my heart to see how some companies don't value the work that they're doing. I'm not saying that they don't value it, but they don't support it. And even if, you don't have the funds to do it, at least like try to see, how you can help them change all these individuals, because they're going out and doing the hard work. They're the ones that are going out to places where they can get Zika, where they can get food poisoning, where they can, get in trouble with the gangs. They're the ones that are putting their faces out there, leading every day, helping homeless kids that are in really ruined families. They see it every single day, and they're putting in the work. They're putting in the power of work through, and they're trying to manage all of this. And I think as Bitcoiners, we should have companies like that, like organizations like that, and talk about them, help them out. What do you need help with? They don't even have to, you don't have to, donate money to them if you don't have the funds, but they need a lot of help with their, whether it's social media or, I was talking to Vale, trying to help him out, how he can sell the products from the people that are doing them and sell them to Bitcoiners, because they don't have a lot of people to help. So that's more or less where my anger and frustration comes from, and disappointment from, the Bitcoin community, where we should be helping out companies like that instead of, worrying about number go up, worrying about, because the number go up, that's going to come eventually. But
Well,
we
I'll,
just,
I'll tell you where the incentives are kind of like warped on this, and it's tricky, and every business has to approach it differently. But I would say right now, there's probably only about like 7 or 8 podcasts in that are like Bitcoin only, Bitcoin focused, that have a staff of at least 3 people and are able to sustain and pay those bills for those 3 or 4 people. The ones like Breedlove, McCormack, Natalie Brunell. These podcasts, there's a certain quota of big name guests that they have to get on those shows. And that's why you see, a couple of these people keep reappearing on these podcasts every month seemingly. And it's because that's a guaranteed business model. We need to show these people on the podcast, and that's like almost reserved space for the big names because you just have to pay the bills, right? If you get new guests that no one's heard of every single time, you're not going to pay the bills. And Nico was saying this when we were in Toronto, like it took Joe Rogan 5 years to monetize that podcast. And you want to have as many dialogues as you can with people when you're running a show, but there are considerations of, maybe it was a little rough because I took too many new guests and no one knew who they were and nobody really went down that rabbit hole. And now I can't pay the bills this month. Let's get back an old favorite, right? And I think because the Bitcoin space is so tight, and the number one thing to sell to Bitcoiners is affirmation that their number is going to go up, the inclination is always to get a lot of macro people on your show because it definitely guarantees viewership. What I hope is that, as number does go up, some of these, hosts can take more risks in the people that they get on who have very small followings just to chase a different type of story a little bit more. And I think you see that. Like I remember like in 21, I was just seeing all these new people show up. But during the bear markets, it's the classics that hold the fort because we need to have that reminder that everything is going to be okay. So I think it will change. And I think, the number one thing for Motive, I think necessarily is not that, we need to all make sure that people get donate to them, but we just need to get their story out. So my hope is that, Walker, you bring on Valley sometime and he can tell you the whole story of Motive, or,
I'd love to.
McCormack can get him on because he has the meat of it. We just went there and saw it for 8 days, but that guy has endless stories about how Bitcoin has changed the lives down there and then all the things that he's had to struggle with in order to get it to work. But yeah, it's all coming. I remain positive on it, but you have to understand the financial incentives are aligned sometimes to not take risks with guests and putting certain people in the spotlight.
That's why I keep my fiat mining job so that I'm very grateful to my one and only sponsor, Bitbox, and the Bitbox O2 Bitcoin only hardware wallet. But because they did take a risk on me very early when I had hardly any downloads or anything, and shout out to them. That's really awesome. And I've heard that they've done that for a lot of people too, because there are those companies out there who will take that risk and say, you know what, we know you're not a big player right now, but hey, let's grow together. That's a pretty cool thing. And the companies that you're mentioning that are, smaller, that took a risk on you guys to help you produce this incredible documentary. I highly encourage everyone to go check it out. I'll link it in the show notes. Please it is worth 45 minutes of your time. Share it, with your friends, family, strangers on the internet. It's really powerful. And I would love to have the Motive folks on here if you could make that connection as well, because that would be fantastic. And I think these stories they're so important to tell. And you can also, who doesn't love a little macro? Sure. A little bit of bullishness and a little bit of doomerism about how the dollar's collapsing and everything's fucked, but we have Bitcoin, so you're all safe. But I can only listen to those so many times. And I think a lot of people also, they crave these stories of how Bitcoin is helping people that they didn't even know existed. And that's what that's one of the things that was just shocking from your documentary was the whole story with the kids literally drinking rainwater out of puddles. I was just fuck.
sad.
That truly breaks my heart. And these guys are out there every day trying to actively improve the lives of these people, but not just hey, here's some Bitcoin. It's they're teaching them to fish versus giving them a fish to eat. And I thought that was really powerful. And so I want to thank you guys for telling those stories, and I cannot wait to see what you all do next. I realize we've ripped for a solid 2 hours here, and I could go for more, but your time is scarce, much like Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin podcasts may be abundant. But where I'll drop all your links in the show notes. Where should people go though if they want to, they want to watch Get Based TV, if they want to support you guys, if they want to support Motive? I know you drop QRs at the end of the video, but where should people go to look at more of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, YouTube and Twitter is the spot at GetBasedTV. That's where we're posting all our stuff. Isabella is really rocking that GetBasedTV Twitter lately. I didn't know that was a hidden skill. She's a really good Twitterer, I guess.
We
But
have a competition.
yeah,
If Get Based Twitter gets more than 10,000 followers by the end of the year, Julian's gonna give me one.
oh, you have to pass me.
100.
Yeah.
No. You were at 10K when you said that.
No, I said you have to pass me. You
Well,
have to
if
pass
we
me
get
in
the
Twitter
Get
followers.
Based Twitter account past his Twitter accounts, he's
I've
gonna
already
give
set the
me
stats aside.
100,000 sats.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
help make this happen
Please.
then.
I
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
share the goodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and this is something I've learned too, is that we have this highly produced content, Get Based TV, like the documentaries, the shows, research, but I find a lot of the time it just goes back to people just want to get to know you, and so Isabella posting these like little behind the scenes from our productions, people just love those, so we're gonna keep doing that, try and build a little like, I guess following around what we're doing, but yeah, at Get Based TV. For those who don't know the repertoire, Isabella has a show called Wrong Think. That's every 2 to/3 weeks, depending on how fast we can turn it around. Adam's got a weekly show where he's, reviewing clips and different things. And then I am trying to get out one surprise, unique documentary every single month. And that train will continue until we can keep adding more people to our roster to make even more content. So,
No, but
yeah.
after my sponsor rant, I don't think we're gonna get Wrong Thing sponsored.
No, but you know what?
It's okay.
Like, this girl's crazy.
No, you're gonna get based sponsors is what you're gonna
Yeah.
get. Like that's the kind of sponsors you want, right? Like
Yeah.
you want people who believe in the mission because you guys aren't trying to suck up to anyone. And I
Yeah.
respect that. Like it's somebody's got to draw a line in the sand. So, and I'm glad you guys are out there making content. I enjoy the heck out of it. Makes me laugh. The documentary was also, I'm just like, hold it together. Like, hold it together.
You don't realize,
No,
Walker,
you're- Your podcast too. Are you kidding me? Your
Yeah,
news
man.
are the only ones I like to listen to because it's so funny. Your tone of voice, the way that I put it, and I remember, and I cook at the same time as I listen to the news break.
I'm honored for that. I really am.
you don't realize, but like the biggest bummer in the last year is you guys having a kid and not doing new shorts.
I
Because
know.
I got into
What do you mean it's a
I used to do
bummer?
Yeah.
I used to do
Careful
all
what you
my
say there,
shorts.
Julian. Yeah.
It's okay. You guys are
It's an
enjoying your
alpha,
kid.
are
I'm
you
not
kidding
enjoying
me?
your kid as much. I enjoyed your content more than your kid. We'll see. Apollo will come through.
He might surprise
But
you.
I'm telling you, man, I used to do these really straight-laced videos, no comedy, anything. I just delivering information all the time. And I saw your stuff, and I was like, this is what we need more of. Like, we need more people to actually have fun with what they're doing. And it was because of your videos. That's why I started doing these, like, if you had 24 hours with me things, it was you guys
Wow.
that inspired me to like push myself and do a little like bring my like high school acting classes back into the shorts that I do. And it's winning. Like people want to be entertained, people want to have fun, and you can have so much fun making fun of central bankers. Like it's just limitless.
I really hope
So
Carla didn't put away the wig box.
Oh no, oh my God, we've got so many wigs.
I
An-
thought
yeah,
I thought
an
your
absurd
face
number.
was gonna be part of the skits. I was
Yeah.
hoping,
Yeah.
secretly hoping.
Once he can, sit
Bring
up
him
on
back.
his own a little bit better, we'll get him out there. I think he's going to be a jokester. Like I don't know how he can't be with
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
parents like us, but yeah, it's an exciting time. Don't worry, Carla's got the itch to start making some things again.
Amazing.
So
No, but we know that you guys are starting out a family first. That's your priority.
Well, you know what? It's in this day and age, just starting a family is pretty based. It turns out, like who
No kidding.
knew?
You thought.
I know. But guys, I've really enjoyed this. This was a pleasure. I'll get this out as soon as I can. And thanks for all the work you guys do. I think it's really valuable. You guys are doing something that nobody else is doing in terms of the quality and also the scope of the content that you're creating. And you're reaching outside this Bitcoin echo chamber and bubble. And I think we need more of that. So I hope you guys inspire even more people to get based and to watch Get Based TV. And yeah, thanks for sharing your scarce time with me. I genuinely appreciate it.
Thanks so
you.
much for having us, Walker. We're big fans. I love it. We got a big Bitcoin family going on here. It's sweet.
Absolutely. Get based. You guys
Get
can use
Bitcoin.
yeah, get Titcoin. Titcoin maximalism.
Yeah.
I
All right.
love it.
And that's a wrap on this Bitcoin Talk episode of the Bitcoin Podcast. If you're a Bitcoin-only company interested in sponsoring another fucking Bitcoin podcast, head to bitcoinpodcast.net/sponsor. If you're enjoying the Bitcoin Podcast, consider giving a 5-star review wherever you listen or sharing this show with your network. Or don't. Bitcoin doesn't care. You can find me on Nostr by going to primal.net/walker. And if you want to follow the Bitcoin Podcast on Twitter, go to @TitcoinPodcast and @WalkerAmerica. You can also find the video version of this podcast at youtube.com/@WalkerAmerica and @WalkerAmerica on Rumble. Bitcoin is scarce. There will only ever be 21 million, but Bitcoin podcasts are abundant. So thank you for spending your scarce time to listen to another fucking Bitcoin podcast. Until next time, stay free.